What's up, everyone? Welcome to Cruzin with Cruz. I am Cruz. So, in this week's episode of... No, I'm just kidding. I should pretty much make it an episode series since I am doing the third week of the NASCAR weekend. I'm going to try to make it more of a racing weekend. I'm not going to go too much over the F1 race since we all knew who was going to win. I don't like the fact that they kind of hype it up, saying like, oh, Ferrari might be a contender, or we got Mercedes coming up, and it was just, a dominant Verstappen race again. But again, I shouldn't judge the season by the first race, but given the last couple seasons of what we've seen with this new car and how good Verstappen is, it's safe to say that it was his for the taking. But before I continue on, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that ring notification for more videos. I'm gonna, again, I know I keep saying this, but I'm gonna try to put out a couple more videos a week so that way I can get my diversity going on with this channel, because I know I've mainly just been focusing on just the racing stuff or just car stuff in general. But as I continue on, this past weekend we also had the World Endurance Car Series kick off their series, and man, that was actually a pretty good race. Like the last 3 laps that they had there for the Qatar 1812, that was a pretty good race coming towards the closing laps with Porsche or Peugeot just out of nowhere, their car just shutting off, and Porsche ended up just taking the entire podium with both, I believe it was both Penske Porsches and then the one Hertz car. So that was a good race overall. Let's see. So yeah, I already talked about the F1, and then I try to not go in depth with the Xfinity or trucks as much, but I kind of have to go with the trucks because, man, Raja Carruth out of nowhere, from him practically taking out half the field on the last lap at Daytona to him taking the win. Good win on him, but man, I just love how people brush off what he did from Daytona, just been like, man, yeah, good job on winning, But overall, that was a pretty good, entertaining truck race. I was shocked that Kyle Busch kind of fell back towards the end of that race. I don't think a lot of us were expecting that, but yeah, it was still a good race overall. Xfinity was just as good too. John Hunter Nemechek taking the win on that one. I was surprised that Allmendinger kind of fell off towards the end of that race too, because he's the guy I'm kind of rooting for this year. But I can't wait till we hit the road courses, especially to see him against Van Gisbergen. So that's going to be entertaining. But let's talk about the Cup race. So yeah, Cup Series. I guess the big talk of the two big talks were Logano's glove, and they finally showed off his webbing glove. And my God, he kind of looked like what is his name, Aquaman, when he had like the fins like that when he's swimming, just to swim faster. That kind of explains a lot why they did penalize him, I guess. But at the same time, hey, I mean, they were just being creative, and that's the thing I feel like the sport's now kind of dying on. It's just letting the Cup teams be more creative. Now that they're all pretty much running sanctioned bodies, like legit sanctioned bodies by the sport, they can't really do much to the car in terms of just like, aerodynamics and all that stuff, because like I guess they're trying to make it an even playing field. And I understand that, but hey, I give Logano credit for, or his team credit for thinking outside of the box. And hey, they took the pole, front row, third straight week in a row. So I mean, hey, I thought they were gonna show their guns early on, but no, Logano kind of fell back through the race. It was a funny thing too, because when I noticed at the track, I can't believe I just noticed this. I noticed this now. But I got this shirt back in 2015 when I went to see, obviously you can tell by the scheme, it was when Earnhardt was running the nationwide scheme. And one of the things I noticed was the grandstands that I sat at, they're not there anymore. When I was there for that race, we were sitting right towards the end of turns 4, coming into like pin entry right there. So, and that whole section right there, that's kind of like, that went away, and they put they kind of painted it like the color of the desert sand. I noticed that my seats weren't there anymore. I was like, oh shoot. And that's why I was like kind of baffled to see like the stands a little more packed than usual, because I just realized they got rid of more seats. And that's, I guess, kind of the story too with NASCAR right now. With a lot of tracks, they're just eliminating seats so they can make it the stands look packed. And I just hope it just doesn't continue on going down that route, because yeah, I was just really shocked to see that. But anyways, so I guess outside of the big talk with Logano's glove, The new right rear tire that they brought, Goodyear brought, that was one thing that they were, I guess, testing out or just seeing how it's gonna play out during the race. And yeah, I saw Christopher Bell lose a tire. I think Chris Buescher, he actually lost a tire, but his was the right front. I guess they didn't screw that lug nut on properly, so I guess his crew chief and that tire changer, I believe, too, are both gonna have a nice little vacation coming up. That sucks, because I was kind of, hoping Chris Buescher was gonna show his strength from continuing last season, but unfortunately, with that actually led to a red flag because they had to repair the wall. But let's see. So yeah, it's funny too that I talk about the tire issues because I don't know if this tweet was true or not. I'm not on social media as much, but I did see this via the YouTube interwebs, and I saw DW posted something saying he won the Daytona 500. He won his Daytona 500 using Hoosier tires, and I thought that was kind of funny, And I also thought about Tony Stewart and what he was thinking too, because you know how Tony Stewart's been very, very vocal about these tires, especially with Goodyear. And now that the fact that Goodyear's kind of signed on with the sport, it's like, ugh, like what's going on here? But yeah, the Hendrick guys were pretty much the class of the field today too, or on Sunday, should I say, yesterday. And yeah, both Byron and Larson, they were just I can't believe Byron's charge. I believe it was like the stage restart, where he went from 7th all the way up to 1st on that restart. I was like, holy cow, man, like he was on a mission. And unfortunately, I guess he got debris on the car, and like he really didn't work his way back up to the front. Bowman at one point was up there. Elliott was kind of like running outside, inside top 10, not really cracking the top 5 as much. So yeah, Kyle Larson was kind of the class of the field. But before I continue on with him, I gotta talk about the other drivers too, because we obviously know who won that race. But Ross Chastain, 3 weeks in a row with speeding penalties, and I was actually watching his interviews post race, and oh man, I feel gutted for him because he keeps beating himself up. But you know what? I think after the 3rd time's the charm, he should be good, especially going to a track where he won last time. So I have faith that he's gonna brush those issues off, and then they're gonna continue moving forward, and they're gonna perform like the way his teammates been performing too. I saw Suarez. I guess his team, now that they know they're in the playoffs, they're taking some chances with pit strategy and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty cool to see. But yeah, overall it was a mellow race. Again, like I said, the talk was about the tires too, and you heard Harvick in the booth at one point talking about how Goodyear was being very specific on how low you can run that tire pressure. And that's one thing I want to take note too with Kevin Harvick. I've noticed he's very casual on like how he shows his like, I want to say this disappointment, or kind of like his dissatisfaction when it comes to certain things. Daytona, when it was like the first wreck that happened. Atlanta, it was something along the lines of like how the racing was producing, and then this year it was kind of like the Goodyear tire. You can kind of hear in the tone of his voice like how it's like very transparent, but he's kind of trying to be professional about it. I think that's how most drivers that used to race that retire and that are in the booth, they kind of do that, because I noticed Junior kind of does that too a little bit, especially at the plate tracks. Burton as well. You heard it at one point where Stewart was in the booth too, like kind of doing his coverage at certain times, that his kind of tone and voice would change a little bit. But yeah, overall race was kind of a Hendrick dominated race, more like Kyle Larson, and I knew right from the get-go with him starting 2nd place that he was going to be the guy to beat, because Kyle Larson's been performing there very good as of recent. I think he was the most. It was either him or Logano that won the fall race, at that track. Either way, though, I mean, Larson just is like, Vegas is like, I don't know what it is, but he really loves running that track. And honestly, the guy that I was surprised that was contending with him was Tyler Reddick. But it shouldn't have been as much of a surprise, because I think, again, going back to the fall race of last year, you saw Reddick up there too, especially with his teammate Bubba. Those 2311 cars were actually pretty good too. And I liked how they were talking about how those Toyotas, they didn't know, like, going to those mile-and-a-half tracks, that was going to be a true testament to see how that aerodynamic package was going to work. And for the most part, you saw, you know, Reddick up there, Truex, and Hamlin up there. But yeah, it's 3 for 3 for Chevy right now in the Cup Series. They won Daytona, Atlanta, now Vegas. We'll see how Phoenix stacks up, given the fact that it is going to be the championship race. So at least the thing I like about how most of these races are playing out, especially now that we're going to have Atlanta and now Phoenix, is there are going to be 2 playoff tracks, and I guess it's kind of nice for the Cup guys to build up notes coming into the fall race. But then again, I feel like a lot of the times when they go to a track that's at least less than 6 months or even 6 months after, I can't really count right now. I've had a lot going on today. Actually got to get ready for work soon. But anyways, yeah, you know, I feel like it's night and day when it comes to the change of like how the track conditions are, how it's gonna play out, all that stuff. But in terms of like strategy, and I think the distance of races are pretty much the same, so I guess they can work off of that too. But yeah, Kyle Larson was the man to beat, and like I said, if I actually would have bet on him, I knew I would have won, because I knew coming into that race he was gonna win. The only way he probably would have won is like a mess up in pit strategy or him getting caught in someone else's mess, you know. But for the most part, it was a pretty decent Vegas race. I give it like a solid 7 out of 10. You know, it was good race. There was some good racing there, but nothing to like my standards, I guess you could say. But next week, I'm happy that we have next week going on, because now we're gonna have the IndyCar season kicking off at St. Petersburg. So I'll just have a little bit more to talk about, because I am gonna be watching both races this Sunday. So stay tuned in for that. Hope you guys like this week's episode. I know it's a little shorter than ones before, but I mean, it wasn't. I mean, this weekend was. If I had to choose between what I think was the highlight of my week, it was honestly that World Endurance Car race. That was actually a pretty good race. Especially, I like how they're now providing more highlights and more not only highlights but lengthy highlights of like the qualifying. More statistics of like what's going on throughout the race, and just like certain parts of the race that happened. I thought that was the cool part, because I didn't watch the race from start to finish, if I'm going to be honest, but I at least like the fact that I was able to go back on those highlights and watch that. So, and then again, like I said, I knew how F1 was going to be, just like over dramatic. But anywho, I hope you guys like this episode. Please give it a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the flippity flip later.